And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Mythe, which I think is like a mythic thing. It's almost odd because it's about mice. And is this like mice said by someone with a lisp? No, Mythe, I don't know. I don't know what mythic, anyway, I'm getting off topic here. This game is about mice going to get the golden cheese. Now, what really attracted me to this game the first time was when the Passport Game Studio showed it to me, and they're like, look, it's a pop-up. And I remember reading these books as a kid, and I loved pop-up books. I still might like pop-up books. Maybe they should do textbooks with pop-up things. Anyhow, there's more to it than just a pop-up board, though. Let me show you. All right, the whole feature here of the board is that it's a pop-up board. Ta-da! It doesn't need to be a pop-up board. It's simply just a track that's going to go around. But the pop-up board thing is pretty cool. You're going to need to bend it back a little bit like I'm doing, because if it's in the box for any good amount of time, which this one here has been, it's just not going to stay up as straight as you want it to. But here's the board. And so you're going to put a dragon here. Yeah. And then this golden cheese, this little metallic golden cheese piece, which is one of the coolest pieces in a game ever. And then a whole bunch of mice. And the number of mice you have is going to be the number of players in the game. So you're going to start over here. And then on a player's turn, you're going to be drawing cards. Now, a different distribution of cards is going to be used in the game according to the number of players that are in each game. So some cards are only going to be used in a 4-player game. Some, like for example, this one here is only used in a 4 or 5-player game. And each one kind of tells a part of a story, shows the artwork. But in the top corner, there's going to be a number that's from 1 to 3, or it's an obstacle card which shows a skull. These cards are going to be dealt to all the players. On your turn, you're going to need to move on the board. To move on the board, you're going to need a certain number of adventuring points equal to the dots. So if I want to move here, I need 1. If I want to move here, I'll need 3. 1, 2, 3. If I want to move here, I'll need 4, 5, 6, etc. If someone is standing on a spot, that spot counts as 0. So if I'm here at the beginning, I want to go to this spot, I simply need 2 adventuring points. So to get adventuring points, I'm going to draw from other people's hands blindly. I draw a card. I have 1 adventuring point. I can stop and move 1, or I can draw again. If I draw an obstacle at any point, boom, I don't move at all. Otherwise, though, I might keep drawing cards from other people's hands and eventually be able to move the number of spaces. You can keep drawing until you stop or until you hit one of these. If you stop or hit, you then will take all the cards in your hand. You then can distribute cards to other players. You have to make sure at the end of your turn that every player has at least 1 card in their hand. But they can have more than that. You can hand out as many cards as you want the other players to add to their hand. We keep going and we keep going until one player wins the game. To win the game, you need one of the legendary items. So, for example, here is the legendary sword. Here is the legendary shield. And these items may not all be in different games, but when you have one of the legendary items, and then there's the legendary fairy, you say, hey, I'm going to defeat the dragon, and then you need to get enough adventuring points, not counting the legendary item, which has to be in your own hand. You still have to draw the cards from other people's hands. If you get to a spot and at the beginning of your turn you declared you could do it with a legendary item, then you will win the game, get the golden cheese, and you go home happy. Now, on one hand here, we essentially have a gimmick. Well, we have 2 gimmicks. We have the pop-up board, but whatever. That doesn't really mean anything. On the other hand, though, we have the gimmick of playing cards from other people's hands. And that's a very intriguing thing because you can kind of talk smack like, oh, I have the good cards in my hand. But as the game goes by, you're going to watch where the cards go. There's not going to be a lot of 3s or 2s in existence, fewer, especially depending on the number of players playing. So if you see someone play a 3, they take that back in their hand, they then give cards to other people. Did they give the 3 to somebody else? And it's kind of intriguing because what you will often find happening is I will give the 3 or the 2 to the next person to go. Why do I do that? Because then they can't draw the 3 or 2 because it's in their own hand. So then they might give that to the next person to go and so on and so forth. Well, how will that cycle ever break? Because eventually someone's going to go, all right, I'm going to give this to somebody else so that my next time around I can play those cards. And if I give these to Susan, then Sally won't necessarily know that I gave those to Susan, so she's not going to draw from Susan. And all kinds of cool things can happen because you're sitting there thinking and double thinking about who am I going to give these cards to? And occasionally, weird and wonderful things can happen. One time, there was 3 obstacle cards in the game, period. And people gave me all 3 of them. Somehow I slowly had collected all 3 of them. So my turn, I said, boom, 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 and I drew every card at the table. Why? Because I knew that I had all the obstacle cards, and that was a rare thing and probably wouldn't happen again once the other players saw what I had done. But it's just kind of this whole double guess. Ooh, okay, where are these cards? Now, I don't think the game has super long replayability. I think it's the kind of game you bring out, everyone has a good time, and then you pack it up and you bring it out again in a month or so, and it's kind of what I call filler, something to pass the time. But this is not necessarily a game that when you play it, we're like, ooh, let's play it again. No, it's a fun game, but you are essentially doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, which isn't bad. It's the right length, the artwork, the card size, it is very cool and nice. I like the theme about getting the golden cheese. The game scales well, but just again, you're just drawing cards from other people's hands and you're pushing your luck to some aspect, and I like that aspect of the game. But at the same time, I think it can only be taken so far. But I do think there's some intriguing things. At the end of your turn, who do you give cards to? You watch the other people. Who are they giving cards to? Why did they give cards to? Who should I draw from? When should I stop drawing cards? The ending of the game where you need a legendary item, it's a little weak, right? And it does kind of stop that problem of giving the good cards to the next person to go, because if I give them a good card, I'm essentially allowing them to go. So they're going to then try to draw these good cards from people and then hold on to them for a round. So it's good. The game doesn't last too long. It's about the right length of time. It certainly is something different, and that I'm always looking for. That's Mythe. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.